Hello and welcome to RPadTV 3000. We have an excellent show for you today, all about the Marvels. With me today is the excellent Paul Semel, veteran video game journalist, snappy dresser. You've had shiny silver pants, man. I've seen them.
Yeah, had being the operative word there. They're well, I was going to say they're all over the amphitheater at Universal, but that place is long gone. So,
oh, did they melt on you? I didn't know that.
you didn't know about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they fell up. The paint on them fell apart in the middle of the Game Awards.
Huh.
It was the year that Def Leppard played. And were terrible. And like I got up and literally my entire butt was on the seat, like the silver part. Like I was just left with like the inside cloth and
okay. So the cloth didn't, just the paint came off.
Right.
Right.
I didn't
walk around with assless chaps.
No.
You probably could have joined Def Leppard at that point.
Yes, or Prince. So
hasn't Def Leppard sucked performing for decades though? Like Joe Perry's, or is that his name?
No, Joe Perry is Aerosmith. Joe Elliott.
Joe Elliott. Yeah, his voice has not been good for a very, very long time.
I don't know. I've never been a fan, so I've never seen I liked Pyromania back in the 80s, but that was about it. But I never saw them live, so I have no idea. That was literally the only time I ever saw them, and they were terrible. But it's a TV. It's also a TV show.
Yeah.
People aren't at their best on a TV show usually.
No, I remember. Do you remember when Motley Crue played and it looked like Mick Mars was being propped up with a stick?
Yeah, he probably was.
That made me. And Vince Neil was like out of breath after 10 seconds.
Yeah.
What song was it? Oh, Kickstart My Heart.
Kickstart My Heart.
Like,
of course.
When I get high, get high speed.
Yeah.
Whoa, Vince, easy there.
Yeah.
So, Paul, let's talk about your website. What is going on paulsemel.com this week?
A lot of good stuff the last couple of weeks. Reviews of the new Spider-Man, which is quite excellent. And in somewhat of a related note, I interviewed the author of a Marvel Zombies novel, which was a lot of fun. And then it's going to be a busy weekend for me because I'm working on a review of Alan Wake 2. Which, depending on how much free time I have this weekend, will hopefully be up on Monday or Tuesday. And then later in the week, a review of the RoboCop game, Rogue City, which I just started to play this afternoon. Can't say anything about it yet.
Can you say which RoboCop world it's based on, like the original?
It is set in between the second and third movie.
Okay.
And Peter Weller is RoboCop, and Nancy Allen is not in it, but her character is in it. Like, it's all the people from the first two movies. So it's like that, the OCP guy, the old man is in it, and the police chief with, the black guy with the mustache who perpetuated that stereotype, actually, I think. He's in it, although both of those actors are both gone. So it's very much that one. It's not the new version.
Right.
Basically came and went and nobody cared.
Does anyone say you down with OCP?
Not yet, but I'm only about an hour in, so.
I really hope someone says that. But I don't think anyone will. So guys, check out paulsemel.com. It's, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, there's a convenient link on the description that will bring you right to Paul's site. And as a friendly reminder, for Twitch subscribers and for Twitch users that leave a comment on this episode, I am giving away this Turtle Beach Stealth 600 Max Gen 2 in this very cool red color. What are you looking at?
It's kind of Iron Man-y.
It does. I never thought about that. Just needs a little splash.
It's got kind of like sharp edges, and that looks cool.
Yeah. So that headset can be yours. All you have to do is leave a comment. Like Toke said, you down with OCP? Yeah, you know me. I'm down with GOP. Wait, no, that's not right.
No.
So today we are talking about the Marvels. Paul and I are both big fans of the Captain Marvel movie and the Ms. Marvel series.
Yep.
But there has been problems for both of them maybe not so much in how they're reviewed by critics, but for fan perception from a certain segment of fans. Definitely not everyone. And when I say that, I mean, of course, it's totally up to you whether you want to see something or not. We all have different tastes, all have different preferences. But what bugs me is when people that don't like something for stupid reasons go out of their way to try to sabotage or change the perception, by doing things like review bombing or talking badly about things that they don't know about, are not going to see and don't care about, but it's just not, I don't know, they have a problem with it. So that kind of stuff bugs me. So without further ado, we will talk about 3 reasons why the Marvels will fail and 3 reasons why it will rule. Now, the first one is something that a lot of people talk about. There is a lot of MCU fatigue or comic book movie show fatigue in general. Paul, do you think that is the case?
I think it is, because you hear people say it. You hear people who genuinely like the movies and like the TV shows who are like, yeah, it's just too much. It's too many. They complain about, like, especially lately, like some of the ones not being as good as some of the other ones. And
Right.
you also got to remember that there's so much superhero stuff these days, because it's not just Marvel. You have all the DC stuff. You have, the DC television stuff that was, unrelated, but still there. And so, and then also there's also things that are not related, like the Invincible cartoon. I think it's on like Amazon or something.
Yeah, Amazon Prime Video.
Right. And there's like things on Netflix. There's other things on Netflix. Like I just watched a show on Netflix. I don't even remember the name of it, but it was about these kids were, subject to medical experiments, and now they have superpowers, and it's like, oh, another superhero show. And it kind of, I mean, if all you had was Marvel, maybe this wouldn't happen, but it does. And I think
DC, right.
Yeah, and you kind of, in some sense, you only have yourself to blame, because you don't have to watch everything. You don't have to, go to every movie and whatnot, but
now, is that really, for people like you and me? I think we will watch almost everything we can get our hands on. I mean, there was a point in time where superhero movies and TV shows were either scarce or they were really poor quality, like some of those made-for-TV Incredible Hulk movies.
Hey, don't be bashing Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno.
No, but that one where they had Daredevil in it, that was such.
Oh yeah.
And the one where they had Thor, and those were so bad.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, and every once in a while, like something will come up where they'll be like, "Do you remember when this TV movie aired on ABC?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember the Spider-Girl TV show." What?
Right. But, I mean, that's why it makes me question: is it really truly fatigue, or has the industry become so successful and reached such a mainstream audience that maybe it's not for people, it's not all about for the mainstream audience? Maybe there's some stuff that are exclusively for nerds.
I mean, I think for the mainstream audience, there may be some fatigue. I think that's where you're finding it. And the thing is, for a movie like, for example, Black Panther or the Marvels, to make $1 billion, you need that mainstream audience.
Right.
There's only so far that you can go with it.
Right.
The number of, the percentage of geeks in this country is not, it's not like the percentage of women in the country. It's not like we're 50% of the audience or anything, and a lot of the people that have gotten into superhero stuff and geeky stuff the last few, the last like 10, 15, even 25 years are not hardcore geeky people. They're not the ones.
They're not comic book fans necessarily.
Right. They're not comic book fans, but they're also, they for them, the Marvel stuff has been the equivalent of the action movies of the 80s. Like, they're the same kind of person who went to go see like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon and all the Schwarzenegger movies. Like, they just want to go see something fun and exciting. And now it happens to be superheroes, whereas before it happened to be big buff guys. And, you know.
And Paul will watch anything with big buff guys.
So I did in the 80s, but, you know.
Let's take some comments here. Ronald, what's up, man? He does think it's fatigue. And look at that hot chick in his profile picture. Woo! Caleb has a great one here. It's time consuming to keep up with other movies and TV shows plus the MCU. And missing MCU feels like it punishes you for missing parts, so you have to keep up. It's exhausting. Yeah, I can totally see that point. Yeah, that's totally legitimate point. And very wise.
I will say this. I don't think it's so much that it's punishing. It's more like you're rewarding. Or at least they're not trying to punish you. I think they're trying to reward the people who pay a lot of attention to it.
Yes.
You know? I think it just sometimes feels like punishment because you go into something and you're like, wait, who is this? Like, oh, okay. Like,
right. Star Wars does that as well.
Right.
Ahsoka is a great example of so much of that was rewards for people that watched Clone Wars and Rebels.
Right. That's very true. You know.
Tokes asks, are you talking about certain character storylines they have adapted to film? Or that certain characters are geeky or hardcore geeky? No, I meant the audience. Oh, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I was too. Although there are certain characters that are more appealing to geek audiences than mainstream audiences, I think. You know?
Oh, for sure. Maybe Blue Beetle. Maybe one of the reasons that movie didn't do well is that character is too obscure. He's not like your Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Holy Trinity there.
Yeah.
Clickbaiter ads. I can't get Twitch to play. I'll go back to watching on Facebook. But this still counts as your entry. Since you did leave a Twitch comment, you get a chance to win this headset. Totally counts. But thank you. I appreciate it. So I think that that will segue to our next point, which is some stuff that might get a little controversial and testy. But one of the reasons the Marvels will fail is because of sexism among a certain segment of Marvel fans. And this speaks to what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, where people, I totally forgot to flash the screen for MCU fatigue. From Slash Film.
Yeah.
We have too much of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and it's getting ridiculous. Or maybe Ant-Man 3 was just not very good. So, but with Captain Marvel, there was an attempt to review bomb it. Here's a Vox article about it. And it didn't work because that movie what was it, like 1.2 or 1.3 billion?
Yeah, something insane.
In that insane neighborhood, yeah. And people didn't like it without watching it simply because it had a female lead. So there was an element of sexism there. And I get, if you don't want to watch a movie about a female superhero, totally cool. But why go out of your way to review bomb it or to talk shit about it? I mean, you can say that it accomplished nothing in terms of the box office, but it did change the perception among some fans and how it's perceived. I remember when, what was that, 2019 when that came out?
Yeah, I think so.
So I was talking with this local idiot named Juliana. Yeah, let's go with that. And he was like, yeah, this movie's stupid. It's all about girl power and feminism. I'm like, it's really not. But he's like, yeah, but I read all these articles that said it was. I'm like, yeah, but you also saw it. And you still think that? So even the bullshit can shape the perception of a movie. And if you're dumb like Juliana. So.
Yeah. Except you kind of question how much of an impact that actually has. I mean, like you said, that movie made over $1 billion.
Right.
You know, people made similar comments that were race related about Black Panther when that movie first came out, and that made over $1 billion. In fact, I think, unless I'm mistaken, with the exceptions, like the two of them are the most popular, financially speaking, of all the Marvel character specific movies. Like all the other, the biggest Marvel movies, like within, I think the top 6 are those two and the 4 Avengers movies.
Right.
You know,
I mean, but that's also, those were pre-COVID times, so maybe it's a different situation.
That is very true, and I think
and also a holy shit, we have a lot of content time as well.
Yeah, true. But I also think that there's been a backlash on this kind of backlash. You know, there's also, I see a lot of people on social media try to bring up, like, one of the things with the Marvels is they hate Brie Larson specifically.
I don't get it.
Well, she had the audacity to suggest that maybe some female movie reviewers should review the movie. She also had the temerity that when somebody said, you know, why doesn't she smile more in the movie posters, she used Photoshop to graft smiles onto the images of the other Marvel superhero men in their posters. So they, you know, it's them sort of being like this, but they've got these big grins on their faces, and it's absolutely hilarious. So she's not putting up with that crap. And what I see a lot on now on social media is a lot of pushback on this stuff, where somebody is like Brie Larson's terrible and this movie's going to be terrible, and everybody literally goes like, yeah, we don't care what you think, go away.
Right, but it just heightens the culture war in general.
It does. And like, there was an article recently, I don't know how true it was, that Brie was apparently considering not making any more of these movies because she's been getting just so much grief. But the reality is it's a very small but very vocal group of people, and a lot of the people that wouldn't go see a movie because it has a female or 3 female women.
Wait, they're female women?
Yeah, well,
nobody told me there were female women. Actually, I'm not going to see this now.
Hi, and welcome back to Fox News. No, but the point is that there are a lot of the people that wouldn't go see a movie because 3 of the 4 main characters are women, wouldn't go see this movie anyway because they don't care about Hollywood, and they're just bashing it. My concern, and I think yours, is that somebody is going to hear something negative about the movie, not realizing that's who it's coming from.
Right.
And that's, I think, the problem you have now with a lot of things going on. Not to go off on a political rant here, but like, I see a lot of things where people are getting angry about stuff, and it's like, do you realize that you're being manipulated by racists and other bigots? You see a lot of like I see a lot of stories about books that are being banned, and the authors are like, there's no sex in this book. What are you talking about? But so many people have been misled to believe there is, that they go to their schools and say, I want this book banned.
Right.
And then the school officials go, okay, why?
Right. And what you're talking about,
I want it banned.
It reflects Ronald's excellent comment here. People believe everything that the media tells them. It's the way society is. That is unfortunately very true. It's one reason I can't watch news. I haven't watched news in the last decade. I try to read all my news. And even that's getting challenging because the bias in print is just not great either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. And the thing, those articles about Brie Larson allegedly sick of playing Captain Marvel because of all the backlash. Allegedly, that's part of the backlash from the incel-y people as well.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I knew her and can just be like, look, just don't listen to it. I go,
that'll change everything.
Yeah, no, it probably wouldn't. But I'd be like, look, think back onto when you went to that first movie premiere. All the people who showed up to see and cheered you. All the little kids who dressed up like Captain Marvel, that Halloween. Like, how many people do you see walking around now with T-shirts of Captain Marvel on it, where you didn't see that before that movie came out?
Right.
You know?
But Sam Jackson has actually addressed this with her, and I think he simply said, "Fuck them." So, in a very Sam Jackson way.
Yeah, listen to Sam Jackson, because Sam Jackson has gotten shit from people. You know, he got shit when he was going to be Mace Windu.
Yes.
And he literally was just like, yeah, fuck him. I don't give a fuck. I'm a fucking Jedi.
And you're like, bitch, I got a purple lightsaber. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So Carlos asks, will you read me the news? No, I will not. Ron adds, it's terrible the way the news is. Yes. I try to read BBC and Al Jazeera news first and then go outward from there. Oddly, I think the best American news coverage is by news outlets that are not in America. So it's just weird. Can dress up as Captain Marvel. Okay, it's getting weird. It's getting strange, boys. So let's continue in that Fox News-ish vein and talk about reason 3 why the Marvels will fail is racism from some Marvel fans. Now, even more with the sexism for Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel got the double whammy because it starred a female, or it's a triple whammy, a female person of color that's a Muslim. So that got multiple layers of backlash. And the perception of that show was not as positive at the others, in terms of, like, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, it's one of the lower ranking Marvel series from fans, but it's the highest rated one from critics. I loved it. It is my favorite of the MCU TV shows. I know that Ron was a big fan of it as well.
Yeah.
So what do you make of the whole triple whammy here? Because now with the Marvels, you have 3 women. One's African American. One is in her character is Pakistani American, even though she herself is Pakistani Canadian.
Right.
And Brie Larson.
It will be, a lot of those people overlap. So it's certainly not going to be like the racists, the sexists, and the Islamophobes all come together to form some kind of weird super group.
That almost sounded like bad lyrics to a rewrite of the Rainbow Connection. Like the racists, the Islamophobes in me.
Yeah, no. But I mean, that's the thing. A lot of those people are overlap, and really, it's not about. And even for some of them, it's not about the racism or the sexism or the Islamophobia. It's the anti-woke thing, and that, I think, is it's certainly going to be stronger. But again, I think that the pushback on that has also amped up quite a bit. Where, like, I've already seen people like come out and be like, "Oh, Ms. Cap, the Marvels is going to be terrible because it's this and this and this," and people are like, "Go away, go." We don't care what you think. You're irrelevant. You're not. You don't count. Go get a room somewhere and leave us alone. What
do they do in that room?
I don't know, and I don't care. They can light themselves on fire with tiki torches for all I care. But that's the thing. Like, I can't be bothered to get upset about these people anymore because they don't matter. They don't impact my life at all. I mean, you look at the success or failures of everything in the last couple of years where these people have ramped up their attacks, and it's been basically empty. Like, they were like, "Oh, there shouldn't be a black woman in Star Wars." Well, hey, sorry, Obi-Wan did really, really well. "Oh, there shouldn't be a woman in superhero. She's a Mary Sue." Well, that movie made $1 billion and then some. Even, I've said this before, I'll probably have to say it again. Even the Ghostbusters movie, which didn't do well, the one with the women, they try to claim that as a victory, and everybody said, "No, we love those women. We wanted this movie. We were hoping this movie was going to be funny, but it wasn't.
That was just not a good movie. Yeah,
it's not a good movie. That's right. It didn't look it in the trailers. It didn't look it in the commercials. People who went to it and walked out said it wasn't good. That's a key big thing here. It didn't fail or succeed because of what the racists did. They have no power. They just think they do. And every once in a while, sure, they get a Pyrrhic victory. But who cares? But most of the time, people are like, yeah, whatever. You don't count. We don't listen to you.
But the unfortunate thing is they will try to tank this movie in whatever way they can or cannot. But the effort will be there, and that just disappoints me.
That is very true. And it is disappointing, but I don't think it's good. I don't honestly think it's good. If this movie doesn't do well, and I think it will not be because of that. I think it will be because of other more important factors, real factors.
Now, this reminds me of one that we kind of disagree on. And guys, if you're watching this live, let's say Carlos, Ghostbusters was meh. Only highlight was Hemsworth. Yeah, he was great. Isn't it Hemsworth? He's not like a helm, like he has a helmet. I think
that would have been rather fitting if
he's worthy of his helmet.
Yeah.
So
Helm's Deep.
Yeah. Or Hellman's mayonnaise. I don't know.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're watching, here's the point that Paul and I do not agree on, but he thinks that one possible reason this won't do well is because it will be out on Disney Plus, presumably in February or March, not yet confirmed. I don't think that matters at this point. I think people are used to streaming schedules. In the recent year, it did not affect Ant-Man or Guardians 3 one way or the other. What do you think it will affect it, Paul?
Well, because that's what the movie theater owners have been saying. They said that they've been saying that since COVID ended, such as it did, that they have not seen people been coming back to the theaters the way they were before. That for every Barbie and Top Gun, you have a dozen other movies that would have done much better in pre-COVID theater runs, and they're just not. And, you mentioned Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's the first Marvel movie that didn't break even.
Right. But also not good. And going back to that.
But again, right. See, this to me, like, right. I think that the people who, look, a lot more people are going to the movies when the Captain Marvel came out than are going to the movies on a regular basis for the Marvels. And I think that could, being the operative word there, have an impact on the box office.
I agree with that, but I don't think it's just because of the streaming services. I just think the people are used to.
No, you're right about that much. It's not just about the streaming services. It's also about being able to buy the movie digitally. It's about being able to buy the movie on Blu-ray, and although nobody really does that anymore except me, but like being able to buy it digitally, people got in the habit of watching movies at home even more during the pandemic.
Right. And beyond that, I think it's also people came to the realization probably late that the movie theater experience is expensive and shitty for the most part. Especially out here in Vegas where we don't have great screens out here. I really miss the theaters in LA where you have like IMAX laser and real large format screens. Here it's all cramming as many screens into a casino as possible. So we have like 2 quality theaters here, maybe.
Right.
So I think the home experience is just better for more people these days. Streaming is certainly a part of that. Don't get me wrong, but I just think the theater experience is poor.
Yeah.
Caleb says theaters need a spectacle, and that's what's been released in the MCU post Infinity Wars. And that felt like a spectacle. That makes me think of is that movie Nuns on the Run, where spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch.
But it's true. What have been the biggest movies since COVID really kind of everything started to reopen? Top Gun, Barbie, which is a sensation,
and Oppenheimer, which is a big, massive
but that benefited from Barbie. Let's be honest, and Taylor Swift.
Which is that's not a typical movie experience.
No, that's an anomaly. And and her fans are
Yeah.
an
I'm a
insanely
Swiftie.
passionate group of people.
Ronald says it's a sign. Move back to LA. I'm trying, man. So one day.
So yeah.
So that was a good discussion. So I guess it's mixed. I'm glad it didn't turn out to use that point. But we also sort of kind of disagree on reason one on why the Marvels will rule, which is other movies being canceled because of the SAG-AFTRA strike and the Writers Guild strike. Notably Dune 2, which I think was supposed to be out last week or the week before.
Yeah.
And Kraven the Hunter, which I was never going to see, but I don't know. People like those Venom movies for some reason.
Yeah, but they didn't like Morbius.
Yes,
and the response to the trailer for Kraven was more Morbius than Venom.
I thought it looked dumb.
Yeah. Well, people also really love Tom Hardy, and they don't really have much of a feeling about the guy who plays Kraven.
Right. So isn't it Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't have strong feelings about him one way or another. For some reason, some people really love Tom Hardy for some reason.
Because of Bane. He spoke in a stupid voice and wore a garden
fork. They liked him even before that. Like there's people.
Isn't he? Don't women think he's handsome?
Yeah, there's that. There's definitely that. So I think that's one of the reasons why, the first one did one of the many reasons why the first one did really well, and then the second one, of course, got his attention as well. So
with these movies out of the way, it's kind of for nerd movies. The Marvels has a pretty big space, but you also brought up the great point that since the actors strike is still happening, there's no actors to promote it.
Right, which is a big problem for the Marvels because you and I pay a lot of attention to this stuff. We know what's going on. Most people don't, though. Most people certainly don't pay as much attention as we do. Right. And by having people go on talk shows and talk about it and be on the covers of big magazines as such that it is, you get the word out. That's the big thing is you got to get the word out because there's, I guarantee you there's people that don't know the Marvels is coming.
Right.
Now
just to clarify, I think their likenesses are still allowed to be used in websites and magazines, but they themselves cannot be interviewed.
Right. You could put Brie Larson on the cover of Vogue, but she can't talk to them about the Marvels. She may even be able to talk to them about other things, but I don't think there's all kinds of rules there. Like there's now a rule apparently, well, not a rule, but like they're even telling people not to dress up like famous movie characters during
Halloween. For Halloween. That's right.
Yeah. But getting the word out there is a really big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to see anybody on any of the late night talk shows and any of the daytime talk shows. They're not going to do the junket. So you're not going to see the stories during the news that they do. There's just tons of promotional opportunities that no matter how, especially, you could have in the past compensated by spending more on ads.
Right.
But people skip ads. They scoot right past them or they, or they get services where they don't have ads. Yes, you're going to see a lot more ads for the Marvels as we gear up for its release, but it's not going to help the way it would have, say, 15, 20 years ago.
I absolutely agree. But I do think that will have an influence, but I also think having the theaters to themselves is also a great benefit. So
maybe not with Dune. I don't think Dune is going to would have an impact either way. Because I think the people that want to go see Dune are going to go see Dune, whether or not they go see the Marvels. I think that if there not being other superhero movies could have a factor. I think that one of the things that will have a factor with this is that there hasn't been another Marvel movie since Ant-Man.
No, Guardians.
No, Ant-Man was after, I thought.
I thought Ant-Man was first, then Guardians 3.
Was it?
I believe so. Let us check.
Well, whatever. But it's been a while since we've
It has
seen
been a
it.
while. Yes.
And we don't know when the next one is because of the strike. That's another thing. And
I will disagree on Dune because I don't know who the Dune movie going audience is yet, because the first one was released on HBO because of the pandemic. So yeah, it was a pandemic. It was a pandemic release. And also, to me, that movie will never be as good as the Dune where Sting wore a silver codpiece. So I don't know what the hell the point of this movie even is. You're not beating that.
Oh, you are so beating that. You need to watch that movie, the new one. The new one is
Sting in a codpiece is the best.
Yeah.
I don't care what's Mary Jane's name, real name, that actor.
Oh, Zendaya
and her ET neck. No, that's terrible. I shouldn't say that. Let us get to some comments before addressing the next point. Caleb says the lack of showrunners and structure to the MCU shows on D+ has disjointed. Yeah, it's not the lack of them. Maybe it's the variety of them. And they
actually addressed this recently, and I thought this was interesting. What they said is they had a bunch of people who would write the shows and then turn them over to somebody.
Right. And then they'd be rewritten or reinterpreted.
Right. And what they're going to start doing, largely apparently based on She-Hulk, because they said that She-Hulk did this and it worked out really, really well, is they're going to have a showrunner come in and work with the writers from the beginning, and in some cases be the writer or one of the writers.
Right. They're saying
more cohesive.
They're saying the people that they've been using weren't necessarily television people. So they want a traditional TV style showrunner to have so you have the A plot, the B plot in a traditional TV manner. Maybe that'll help. I don't know that if that's the problem, but we'll see.
I don't know. I mean, apparently they said that the model that they're using going forward is She-Hulk, which I think is great because She-Hulk was absolutely one of the best shows on.
I loved it too, but that's also one that got panned by a lot of fans. But
yeah, but it got panned by a lot of fans because it was the silliest thing they'd done.
But they're supposed to be, though. I don't know. They never read the comics, so I get it.
If you've never read the comics and all of a sudden she's breaking the fourth wall, you know, there's some people who do not like it when you break the fourth wall. And when you smash through the fourth wall and break through the menu and then swing down and end up in a room with a baseball hat wearing robot.
But see, I would argue that sexism is a part of that because they love when Deadpool does it. They have no problem with that.
Yeah, you're right. But then again, that's also Ryan Reynolds, and everybody loves Ryan Reynolds. So,
yes, male or female, he is just universally a handsome man and charming.
Yeah,
Carlos says, "I love that Trolls got Sony to release Morbius for Morbin time, and no one went." Yes,
that's the problem when you listen to the Trolls.
When you have dumb executives, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Caleb says, I like Tom Hardy from Locke and Bronson, phenomenal actor, which Ronald says, no, Caleb, you're wrong.
Nobody ever talks about the fact that he was in a Star Trek movie, by the way.
Which one was he?
He was in the last Next Generation movie.
Holy shit, you're right.
He was the Romulan.
Yeah.
He was the Romulan clone of Picard.
That's right. Yeah. That movie was also not very good.
No. Although, weirdly enough, there's a lot of overlap between that movie and the first Star Trek movie with Chris Pine.
Right.
Which is very
Ronald says, Ant-Man was first. Pandemic releases don't count. Yes. Haha. Ronald didn't finish the She-Hulk show because he is racist and sexist against green people. That's my theory. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Wait,
I was about to say Green Lives Matter, but I don't want to get canceled.
No, it's too late. We're live.
Damn it.
You already said it. Reason 2 why the Marvels will rule. I mean, there's so much talent in this movie from the cast and the crew. Talk about the actors and what you like about them.
Well, like we've been talking a bit about Brie Larson, who was so good in the first movie, and then you have Iman Vellani, who is absolutely perfect as Ms. Marvel. I mean, she may as well be Ms. Marvel. I mean, like there's so many parallels between the two of their lives. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
You've got Samuel L. Jackson in the movie, and he's always, even in the worst of movies, he's terrible. You have the other woman, and I apologize for not knowing her name, but she was absolutely fantastic in WandaVision. I mean, the director is really good. The writers are really good. I mean, I think, this has the potential to be just as good as Captain Marvel, I think.
Yeah. And I think Brie Larson is actually severely underrated as an actor. If you haven't watched Room, I think she's phenomenal in Room. The first thing I remember her from is Scott Pilgrim.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to believe she played that character. I think she's wonderfully talented, has a really broad range, and is just a powerful actor and just awesome. I also wanted to talk a bit about this fellow, Sean Bobbitt, who is the cinematographer for the Marvels. And I believe he is one of two people involved in the Marvels, involved in the MCU that has been nominated for an Oscar in cinematography. So he has quite the pedigree and is amazingly talented. So look him up on IMDb to see what this man has accomplished. You will be impressed. So talent-wise, yeah, I think this movie has so many things going for it.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, writing, acting, cinematography. So that doesn't always translate to success, but it helps. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have a badly written movie acted by a bunch of monkeys, on heroin,
I'd watch that.
Okay, now that I've talked about that, I'm like, oh wow, bunch of movies in which gorillas on heroin.
I think you can still make these kinds
Planet
of movies.
the Dope Apes.
I like it. Oh, they'll make it hip hop and they'll be dope apes. No. I would watch that too. So reason 3, and this was interesting because we had a discussion about this on a Slack channel. This movie is awesome for women and people of color. You have 3 female leads. 2 of them are people of color. And representation is a very important thing. Not everybody gets that. I was having this debate with my friend. Not a debate, it was a discussion. And who wasn't quite getting the power of why it was. He was thinking of these movies, saying that the success of the MCU was based on white superheroes. So from a purely bean counter point of view, why not keep going in that direction? But I was talking about expanding the audience, making it a truer reflection of society, and reaching out to more people. And I think you see that in things like Ms. Marvel, like Captain Marvel. I mean, Ms. Marvel did so many things for Muslims that are into superheroes. So
right.
If you look at this article from the Washington Post, watching my son watch Ms. Marvel feels like a game-changing event. Here's another one from the Associated Press. In Ms. Marvel, Muslim fans see a reflection of their lives. And the Nerdist, Ms. Marvel gets Muslim representation right. So these are wonderful, powerful things that make people fans. So I think this is an important issue.
Right. Well, one of the things about Ms. Marvel is in some respects it didn't do as well as some of the other shows, but within young people and people of color, it did huge. It was really, really big. And I think I may have said this at the time, but I'll reiterate it. I would expect that viewership of Ms. Marvel is probably going to go up in the next couple weeks, and it will also go up again like after the movie comes out. Because I think when people go see her in this movie, they're going to be like, oh, she's cool. I like her. Yeah. What's her story? I'm going to go watch that show,
And during when it was both strikes happening, didn't they play some on ABC or some?
They did, but then there was a sporting event, so they aired like 3 episodes from like 8 to 11 one night, and then the next 3 they aired at like after midnight. So I don't know what the point of that was.
After.
Yeah, it was at least on the West Coast. It was after midnight because of a sporting event. But they never, they never really pushed that one as much as I would have liked them to done. I think what they should have done is they should have watched 2 episodes a night every night for a week and made a big deal about it. And because I think then people would have really watched the show and they would have, really gotten how interesting this character is and how interesting the actress is. And, and it would have helped, But like I said, I think you're going to see stories about how this movie streaming, the show streaming has gone up, both before and after the movie comes out, especially if the movie does well.
And Ron says you are correct, Paul. He's already started rewatching Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
I watch Ms. Marvel, rewatch it randomly at all different times just because I love the show so much. It's, as I said earlier, it's my favorite of the Disney Plus TV shows. I love the comics so much, and it was a great representation of them, great adaptation of them. Before we get out of here, let's talk about that a bit more. Should have done that in the beginning, about why we love Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel so much. And guys, comment along and tell us why you like Captain Marvel, the movie, and Ms. Marvel, the series. Want to hear good, positive things before going out. Now, let's start with Captain Marvel. What did you like about the movie?
It was an interesting version of the character. I thought it put her in an interesting place within the Marvel universe. I thought that Brie was really, really Brie, I know her. I thought she was really, really good. There's a scene that I absolutely love in that movie where she's talking to the Supreme Intelligence and she's all tied up and she's basically I don't need to listen to you anymore. And tears this thing out and basically just beats the crap out of everybody. That's one of my favorite Marvel movies out of all of them. I think I've said this to you before that for me, the mark of a great movie is whether if I walk out of the theater and want to walk next door to Barnes & Noble and buy it on Blu-ray. And that was one of the ones that I've bought. Literally the only negative thing I can say about that entire movie is that having Just a Girl on the soundtrack was a little too much on the nose.
I agree, but the other music choices in it I really liked. Didn't they have Garbage in it? They
had Garbage and Elastica. It was all these female. It was predominantly, if I remember correctly, bands in which the singer was a woman.
Right.
Some or all of the rest of the band were men. So it was Elastica, which was half men, half women.
Right.
Garbage, which is 1 woman, 3 men. Hole was in it, which is
Hole.
2 women, 2 men.
But I also loved how the music. This is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the only MCU movie that takes place in the 90s, which I love the setting of it. So just the music, the clothing choices.
Right. But there was also a lot, you kind of said something about this, but that I disagree with. There was a little bit of a feminist thing going on there, not as much as
no, it was there, but I don't think it was a primary thing.
No, it was not. It was not an anti, a pushing it, but there was little things there's a great scene where she's sitting there looking at a map and a guy does the whole hey baby, give me a smile.
Right.
And she's just no.
Right.
Fuck off. And then she steals his motorcycle, which, is great.
So Ron says Ms. Marvel brought out a different kind of humor that we haven't seen in Marvel. I don't know if this makes sense, but it gave me Scott Pilgrim vibes, or maybe because she was in Scott Pilgrim as well. I don't know. But I do agree it was very different tonally.
Yeah.
From the other movies. Part of it is the character herself is one of the more cosmic based characters.
Right.
And at that point, the MCU didn't fully explore that aspect. They were teasing. They just started with Thanos.
Right.
And so was it before or after the?
No, that was not. They had already. Thanos is already in because that movie came out in between Infinity War,
right?
And
so Right. So that's what I meant. Where they were just starting with him in the first one, in the first Infinity War.
Right.
But
Okay.
it's a cosmic level character, which we haven't. When I think of her, I think of characters like Silver Surfer and Adam Warlock and
Okay.
stuff
I see
like
what you're
that.
saying. Yeah.
So because I go back to the original Marvel with the feathered Richie Sambora hair in the comic. So that's what makes me think of him. Now,
Right.
let us talk about the Ms. Marvel series, which you and I are both tremendous fans of.
Yes.
Takes place in Jersey, your home state.
Yes.
Jersey City specifically, where there are a lot of South Asian people and a lot of Filipinos. So it's a very interesting cultural melting pot.
Yes. It's a very cool place. I haven't in a while, but we used to go there with my mom and dad. We would go and there's this one street where there's just a ton of really cool restaurants, and we would go and get different food, and there's a really good place over there. Ms. Marvel, one of probably along with Miles Morales, like the best new Marvel character in a very, very long time.
Last 20 years.
Very an interesting, and also put a different spin on things, because this was somebody who grew up with the Marvel superheroes in her life,
right,
and is a fan of them, and is and aspires to be them. And then when she gets her powers, she's like, I'm a superhero. I'm going to protect my neighborhood. And,
but even beyond a fan, she's a fan girl, like total, like she goes to that convention early in the series.
Right. Which I think is straight out of the comics. Like she's like, they didn't do this in the TV show, but in the comics, she takes her name from Captain Marvel, knowing, because it's like, that's what Captain Marvel used to call herself, and is not anymore. And she's like, I'm going to take it. And she's scared to death that Captain Marvel's going to get mad at her for it. And then Captain Marvel's like, no, you're good.
And in the comics, when one of the first heroes she encounters is Wolverine, and she's like, wait, my Storm and Wolverine fan fiction was #2 on whatever. It was like the equivalent of Ain't It Cool News or something. So, and she's like, wait, what was #1? Like, I love that she's like a fan. So it's almost like a nerd perspective of a nerd becoming a superhero,
right?
Which I love.
Right.
Culturally, I love that it showed what it was like being a Muslim in America.
That was another big thing with me too, because it was. I mean, I found out later that it was culturally sensitive and culturally accurate, but it was interesting to see somebody from that perspective, because this is a shock to you, I'm white. So I don't know what it's like to grow up Muslim. I don't know what it's like to be Southeast Asian. It's interesting to me. South Asian, sorry. It's interesting to me to see that perspective of things, to go beyond just the food.
Right.
And the big dance scenes in movies and stuff,
Oh, and I love that they had a dance scene in the show.
Well, they had to. I mean,
Yeah, but although I've been to a few Indian weddings, I mean, it's not the same as Pakistani, but there's a lot of similarities.
Right.
And I think the shortest one I went to was 4 hours. So they are events.
Right. Well, and we talked about this when we did our Ms. Marvel show.
Yes.
One of the cool things that they did is they used the show to explore the split that happened between India and Pakistan.
Yes.
And I love when people do that in this context. We've talked about.
Don't forget Bangladesh.
Yeah. We talked about Lovecraft Country did this, and the Watchmen TV show did that. I mean, Watchmen TV show is responsible for people knowing about the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Right.
Whereas even black people were like, wait, what the hell happened? Like, that's not, like, I remember when I was watching that show and that went down, I was like, that's not real. Wait, hang on. Oh my God, that was real.
Holy shit, that did happen.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Black Wall Street, they call it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
horrible events in American history that we try not to teach anymore. For not me personally,
well,
but they don't, especially in Florida, they don't want you to learn about things like that.
But that goes back to what I was saying. Like, I love that they utilize that aspect in Ms. Marvel to talk about this thing that we don't know anything about, to tie it into the real world and to give it some weight, but also at the same time tell a very entertaining story.
Guys, I just noticed that we had a bunch more Twitch viewers pop online. So if you are viewing on Twitch, please subscribe, follow me on Twitch, and leave a comment for a chance to win this Turtle Beach headset in this ravishing red finish, like ravishing Rick Rude, but without the hip gyrations. So let's give them a few minutes to leave comments and talk about something else.
Well, I think there's one thing that we haven't talked about that I think bears representation in this discussion. That's not the right word. I actually think the big factor, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on this, I think the big factor as to whether this movie will do well or not do well, and how well or how badly, will really be about word of mouth. I think that if people walk out of this movie and they love it, the movie will do well. I think if people walk out of this movie and they don't love it, it will not do well. That if people hear from their friends and family this movie kicks ass, it will override their instinct to wait until it comes on Disney Plus in a few months.
Right.
And that if it's terrible, it will make them say, yeah, I can wait for Disney. You know, I think that's the big thing. I think that's the big thing with like almost all of these movies, you know?
Right. But what does doing well even mean post-COVID now?
Well, that's the other question. I mean, first of all, it has to break even.
Right.
And I don't know what number it has to break even. I don't, you know, if it does the same basic numbers as the first one, great. But
as Captain Marvel, you mean?
As Captain Marvel, right.
That's a tall task.
That's a tall order, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean,
right. Well, we'll see. I mean, Guardians 3 did 845 million.
Right.
I don't know what expectations were, but they considered that a success.
Right.
And that was still like post-COVID, like before Barbenheimer, we weren't sure if movies could do $1 billion anymore.
Right.
So do they have $1 billion expectation on this? I don't know. The budget is high, so it's.
You know, my guess is that Disney is probably. I think they already said their expectations are more like 800 million, and right. I think that they are. I think they've probably brought it down because you know the strike is preventing them from promoting it, and you know, post COVID and stuff. So, you know, I don't expect that. By the way, cute monster. What is it? Cute monster on Twitch. Oh, I was like cute monster witch. What? Okay. Yeah. It's not going to be because the director is not Taika Waititi or whatever his name is.
I love Taika Waititi, but
I do too, but
he's restraint.
Yes. And whoever's, I don't know, the person directing this one is not that. And you would already know that from the trail. Like we've seen enough of the trailers to know that there's going to be some cuteness with the cats, but aside from that, and some situational humor, I expect it will strike a very similar tone to the first one.
And as a plug, Cute Monster is actually an old friend and coworker from my Happy Puppy days. So that is a lovely blast from the past. If you're a nerd parent, definitely check out Cute Monster's content. It's a great stuff for you there.
God, Happy Puppy.
Yes, I used to have a business card with a dog on it. And then what was my next job after that? Oh, GameSpy, where we all had code names.
Oh God, I remember that.
Because it was based on the shooter days, but I thought it was silly. I'm like, I like my name. Like, I don't want to be someone else. Bryn was Hardcore Pawn.
Right.
Sal was Sluggo. We had a guy named Silver Dawn. And then I remember Bill Lynn called me one time from Lynn PR, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? How are Fucko and Silver Dong doing?" I'm like, "Shut up, man." Like,
I think GameSpy is, in a weird way, is still around as like a technology.
The technology is still there, but it's not
It's not like a editorial website or anything.
No, and it's not even archived for. You can go on Internet Archives and find some of this stuff, but I wrote so much stuff and did a bunch of videos there that people cannot find anymore. I'd like to see them. I never thought that, a site could go away permanently like that.
Oh, I did. Yeah. I've always downloaded everything I've done.
I should have kept my print clippings as well, because I wrote so much for Computer Shopper, PC Magazine.
I from where I sit, I can see about 20 boxes of magazines from my days as a print journalist, and there's another 20 in the other side of the closet.
So let's get out of here on this. I will tease next week's episode, which will be 5 reasons why Deadpool is the coolest Marvel character. Paul, why don't you give me one reason why you think Deadpool is a cool Marvel character?
One?
Okay, give me as many as you wish.
He's genuinely funny.
Yes. He is genuinely funny. Zach Morris. He does have superhero fatigue. Looking forward to Deadpool, but I haven't seen a Marvel movie. Ooh, since She-Hulk. Wow. Yeah. So that is definitely.
Wait, how much? What does he miss since She-Hulk?
Well, this year,
Loki, Secret War,
Secret Invasion, Ant-Man, Guardians 3,
Ant-Man's Guardians.
The
was
Hawkeye after Loki? Because Loki was the second.
Well, no, I'm talking about the new season of Loki, because the new season of Loki is after.
Oh, right.
Hawkeye, I think, was before. I think Hawkeye was
before She-Hulk.
Before She-Hulk, right? And then, but there was also the Werewolf at Night special, but that's like a special.
That doesn't count. Yeah.
Right.
Looking at
there was the top secret Taylor Swift thing we're not supposed to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Only people that watch everything get to see.
So Ms. Marvel was actually after She-Hulk.
No, Ms. Marvel was before She-Hulk. Ms. Marvel was a while ago.
They're both 2022, according to this list.
I thought it was well before that.
I don't remember when Thor and Love and Thunder came out in 2022.
Like towards the end of the year, I thought.
The Guardians holiday special, I guess that counts. But Zach Morris, you did not miss anything by missing Secret Invasion, because to me that is the worst Disney Plus show by a fair stretch. And Miss Marvel's the best. So that is that. Now, guys, again, thank you so much for watching, leaving comments, and hanging out with us. Be sure to go to paulsemel.com. The link is in the Facebook and YouTube descriptions. And join me next week, where I will be hanging out with my friend McLean, talking about 5 reasons why Deadpool is the best Marvel character. Thank you for watching RPadTV 3000. See you next time.